new digital filmmaking, I am going to attempt to demonstrate everything that we've done with our Chroma keying or our special effect or the green screen practice. And I'm going to attempt to do it in under 25 minutes. A couple of caveats for anyone watching the video that's not in my class. We're doing special effects only with Premiere. We're not jumping into After Effects. After Effects would be in my advanced class. And there's stuff I'm going to be doing in this video where I might get a little sloppy because, again, I'm trying to cover all of the how and not necessarily how to perfect it. So everything I'm doing, maybe you invest a little bit more time. I'm probably will get sucked in and try and do a few more things, but it's 11 up there. I'm going to try and do everything I can in 25 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So that being said, this is the quick version of how to do your special effects. Remember to pause, remember to rewind, double check everything I mean. So we're gonna go from basically this, right? Me in front of a green screen with a little sword, to this. And as you can see in my timeline, it gets very complicated very fast. Once again, so here we go. So go ahead and start with a new project, file, new project. Go ahead and you're gonna name it something like special effects, Mr. G practice. I'm gonna put demo because I'm demonstrating it. You don't have to. Save it to the right spot and hit OK. Okay, the folder you're gonna wanna get is the Mr. G assets folder, which is in the pickup drive. So if you go to the server, i3 server, and you go to film pickup, there's a folder here called Mr. G assets. Drag that to your desktop. It's a few gigs. It'll take a while to transfer over. And drag that whole folder into your new project. All right. Now I'm going to get rid of my examples. And here's all of our footage. The first thing you want to do is I do several takes. I do like a take or two with my glasses, and my glasses fall off and I almost break them. I believe the last take is probably the better take. I really get into it. You even see my belly for a second. Apologies. So right about there. I hit O and go back to that take. Chop, chop, flamethrower, fireball, and a little getting ready to fight before I get going. Right there. I'm going to start it right there. In, out. I'm going to drag it right into my timeline, which will create a sequence with the correct settings. Remember, if you go to sequence and sequence settings, you can adjust and fix those, but that's fine. All right. I'm really only going to be dealing with 8 seconds of this, maybe 9, maybe 10. So I'm going to hit that forward button. Let me activate my little helper here. Right? Right above the return key, there's a forward slash, and that resizes my timeline. I'm really only dealing with this. Now, some people were asking, hey, can I use your little sounds that you're doing? It's kind of funny. That's totally fine. I don't want to hear myself do my little hoo, hoo, hoo. So I'm just going to unlink this and get rid of my audio. All right, so now I have me. All right, I purposely did not light this super well. To kind of anticipate a few problems that you might come across with your effect. So what you want to do first, before you even try to get rid of the green, is you want to crop out everything. Everything that you're not in front of. So I think the furthest I go forward is right about there. So I'm gonna start my crop here. Now, how do you crop stuff out? You have to go to Effects. So if you click on this little drop-down menu, you hit Effects. It might be a tab up there already. I'm going to go to Video Effects. I'm going to go to Video. I'm going to go to under Video Effects. I'm going to go to Transform, and I'm going to drag Crop onto my footage. All right. Now, with the effects controls, I'm going to crop myself out. I'm going to make sure I don't want to crop out my hand. So what happens is if you think like this is the furthest point, and then you crop, I'm going to crop right, excuse me. I'm going to crop it right and be like, okay, that's cool. But then I move forward. So once you, right? You're going to crop off my hand and my leg. So you want to make sure you're getting the furthest. You want to crop as much as you can, but you don't want to crop me out at all. Let's see, a little bit more. Something like that. And then let's do the left side. The left side is when I do my little crouch down right here. I think it's the furthest left I go. And just the less green I have in my footage, that's pretty up, a little bit more. Good thing I checked. The less green I have, the less problems I'm going to encounter. So I've already gotten rid of some of the dark spots. Now it'd be super cool if I can get rid of that top dark spot. That'll make my life a lot easier, and I'm pretty sure I can. So I'm going to go to my top one, and I just got to go to my jump because it's the highest. And it's okay I crop out the sword, but I don't want to crop out the hand. And I say the sword, it's really a leg of a tripod. But yeah, so I want to make sure I'm not cropping out my hand, but I can crop out the sword. That's fine. And then I'm going to go to the top. And I'm not going to crop anything off of the bottom. There you go. Oh, a little bit more. Look at that. Look at that hang time Mr. G gets. Apologies for exposing my belly button to you all. We're good? Yep, just barely keeps it all inside. But you notice that looks way better compared to how it looked before, right? I got rid of a lot of the problem shadows already. Okay, now that I have that set, now I'm going to go back to my effects tab here in my browser. I'm going to go to keying. And I know that's a little confusing because we've talked about keyframing, and now we want to talk about chroma key. So chroma keying is removing the green from it, or it could be any color really, from the video. So I'm going to go to this ultra key filter. So once again, effects. Once again, go to, then we're going to go to keying folder, drag Ultra Key on top. Boop. Now with Ultra Key, I'm going to scroll down here in my effects control window, and I have another filter now, Ultra Key. So I'm going to go here to Key Color, and I'm going to use the eyedropper. And I got to turn off my little helper here for a second. And I'm going to select kind of, not the super brightest green, not the darkest green, a nice good neutral green. And I'm going to do that again. And I got some other effects I need to do. That didn't work out as well as I said. I'm going to try that again. Let's hit reset here. Turn off this guy completely. There. I think this thing causes problems. Now, what I'm going to do is try there. All right. Now, it didn't get everything out of the way completely. I still have some junk here. So what I'm going to do is I can add to that selection. Oh, no, I can't. So I'm just going to select that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and play with it. It's kind of built in order to kind of, so I'm going to deal with the highlights and the shadows and the tolerance and the pedestals and kind of make sure this looks really clean, because if you look right here, right, there's still some fuzz happening. So I can do this even more. I can make this like an aggressive composite. Yeah, I'll just go back to custom. And I'm going to pull, the transparency is going to be me, which I don't want to do, right? I'm going to go back to my assistant. I can activate it again. And I can increase my highlights, decrease my highlights, excuse me, and then decrease my shadows. Wrong direction, once again, right about, now you don't want to, see how my head's disappearing? There's a fine balance of where exactly you're going to try and get rid of it. And then a lot more fuzz might be apparent when I put the picture in. That's looking pretty good. A couple other details to go under. Pedestal is like if you have, that would kind of affect or deal with like something like the sword here. I still have a little chroma keying to kind of have, so I'm going to play with the shadows. Oops, too far again. Something like that. There you go. Tolerance is how much it's going to choose. And now matte cleanup. Choke, if I increase or decrease the choke, it either eats in or gives me a little bit more of a cushion. So I can choke it in, and then I like to soften it up just a little. Don't soften it too much, but a soften kind of blurs the edges. I just like to do a little bit. Kind of makes it look nicer. Now, spill suppression, I don't have much of it here, right there with my green. You see a little bit of green on my finger. Spill suppression, we'll try to get rid of some of that green by kind of adjusting the green to a magenta. it's kind of like the opposite color. Green and magenta are opposites. There's a few other things. I can also change my coloration. Like if I know I'm going to be in the forest and I'll throw the background in there, I can kind of change my hue, just do a simple color correct to kind of match my background layer. I can also just do a color correct filter on top of this, but it's meant to be kind of like a quick spot to do a quick adjustment if you need to. All right. That being said, let's get to placing me in the background. I gave you two backgrounds. I gave you the forest, and I gave you the kind of like the Street Fighter background from, like, I think it's supposed to be Las Vegas. But I'm gonna place myself in the forest here. So I'm gonna plop myself up one more track. Once again, did you see what I just did? Down here, I was on track 1, and now I'm gonna move myself up to track 2. I'm then gonna take my picture and plop myself underneath, and I'm gonna move my picture here. Now my picture is too small. It's a different aspect ratio, different pixel count. Right click on the picture and choose scale to frame size. Bam, it fits. Also, sometimes you might notice, once you put the picture in the background, you might notice a problem or two, like something might be darker or clearer. So you might need to go back to your Chroma key here, filter, and kind of mess with that some more. So I'm gonna, if I start again, oops, let me turn this off. Let me turn this completely off. Sorry. I'm gonna click right here. And I can kind of see I have this dark spot. So again, I'm just going to go through the matte generation process. I will add, oops, I'll get rid of some of the lights. I'm going to get rid of some of the shadows. It's already looking better. It's not eating to my head this time. There. Pretty good. Increase the choke. We're good. Yeah. Yeah, now it looks clear. All right, go back and turn on my assistant. I call this my assistant. All right. You again could spend way more time, but I'm already 10 minutes into my 25 minutes allocations. All right. Next, I'm gonna get assets in here. So the other thing in the Mr. G assets is I have a fireball, I have a laser sword, I have a flamethrower. So I'm gonna throw those in. So what I like to do is I like to find exactly where I'm launching it. Boop, boom. That's where the fireball should be leaving my hand. And I'm gonna throw the fireball in like so. I'm gonna put it on a track above. Now I made these very slow to kind of emerge. So I'm telling you right now, just change the speed to about 400, sometimes 200. And that will kind of help it kind of emerge quicker. So I'm gonna plop this, let's see, get this right there. All right, now, where it gets maxed out. There, yes. Now, what I want to do is I want to keyframe this so that it kind of grows with my hand and then flies out. So right there, I'm at my full extension of throwing the fireball, and that's where the fireball should be. So I'm going to click on my fireball, double click it just to be safe, hit effects controls, and I'm going to go to motion. And we've done this before with pictures. It's the same process, but we have like smaller things here. So we hit position, scale, and that's where I wanted it to be at that point. I'm going to move it to the right, and it needs to launch from my hand. So I'm just gonna hit position X and have it slide off. Now, the closer these are together, the faster the fireball is gonna travel. The further apart they are, the slower it's gonna travel. So you just wanna, that's pretty good. Now, I'm gonna go back to the starting keyframe right here, and I still have some time in the beginning here as right now the fireball is growing from the trees. What I really wanna do is I wanna track my hand. So I'm gonna have to keyframe it back. And so I'm gonna slide it over here. One more X, one more down, and maybe even scale it. And because I keyframed my scale at that first point, I can do this. Make it even smaller, get it in the right position, something like that. And then if I even wanted to get really nitpicky here, really kind of put it in my hand so it's like emerging like a little tiny flame right from the beginning. There you go. So now it's generating it with my little, that's keyframe. I'm gonna do the same thing with the flamethrower, right? Again, I made an in and out point this time. Maybe make a little bit more. Oop, I guess it runs out. And I'm gonna plop that. Again, I'm gonna speed it up to speed duration 400. When I was doing this I forget why I made them so slow, but I wanted to have just an extra amount of time. So I'm really kind of starting to blow the flamethrower here, and then I'm gonna really kind of have my max spot right there. So I'm gonna get it in good position first. Oops, and it's a little bit over here. So I can also just double click, and now I can move that. I'm gonna scale it. It's really big. Oh, I made it 4K, I think, is what happened. So I have a really big flamethrower here. I'm not gonna mess with the anchor point, in case you know what an anchor point is and what I'm doing there. And so what I need to do is move this over. And again, I'll slide this again over here like this. Get this a nice good flame. Now, do I want it coming out of my wrist like Spider-Man or out of my hand? I'm gonna make it kind of come out of my wrist like that. That's looking good. So I'm gonna keyframe it, effect controls, position, scale. If you wanted to change the anchor point and do rotations as well, you could, but I'm just gonna kind of keep it this way. I'm gonna save rotation and anchor point for the sword. And so it's emerging from my hand here. Now my hand starts to slip back. So I'm gonna pull it back here. Maybe start to scale it in a little bit too. Oop. And that might mess it up too much. Let's see. Kind of pull this forward a little bit. So I'm just, another thing I can do is I use my wheel on my mouse. And that, if I'm over the picture using my wheel, I can do that. And then I'm gonna really shrink it right here. So I'm gonna get it really, 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 really small. That's gonna cause me to pull it down. And that's it. I don't want the fire to be here. So what I'm gonna do is right about here is I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna go C, cut, go back to my arrow, delete this part. And I'm gonna just do, I can do a couple things here. I can keyframe the opacity. So I'm just gonna go hit opacity, and I keyframe, or I can add a cross dissolve. So I'm gonna hit opacity 0. Can't see it. What's going on? 0. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right about there, crank my opacity up to 100. So now it's kind of appearing and growing at the same time. There you go. Yeah. And then after my hand leaves, how do I want to get rid of it? Some people can fade it. Some people could crop it. I'm just going to have it kind of push out. So I have my fire. And then right here, as I'm letting go, I'm going to do one keyframe and not do anything. So this is key. I got to press keyframe and keyframe. It's going to do nothing. And then it's going to lock that position in right here. And then I'm going to, right about here, slide it out. Maybe let it get a little bigger. And then maybe to change the position a little bit. Just to kind of make this, and then missile it out. Let's see, how's that look? Good. Again, you can spend a lot of time just kind of really perfecting those keys. Before I get to the laser sword, which is going to take a long time, the other thing you can key right here is you can key me flying out, and I've given you also like a blast to kind of go over my feet. So you can also keyframe the body or the person. So that's why I have this little jump here. So right here, right when I'm about to jump, select myself now. I hit effect controls. I'm gonna hit position. I could hit scale. And let's see, I'm gonna go, that's where I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right as I'm flying out, I'm gonna, again, just hit position Y and pull myself up out of there. So it's only a few frames of me flying out, but there you go. So now if I hit play, I fly right off the screen. What I maybe want to do is pull my picture a little bit longer. There you go. So what I could also do now is, for someone really, really, really paying attention, my foot is cut off. My foot was off frame. So as I'm keyframing myself out, if you wanted to hide that, that's where this burst comes in. So what I could do is, this little burst, I could drag in here. Again, I'm going to make it 400% faster. I have this burst happening, and I got to trim it from the front. It was really long. Oop, didn't want. There's my burst. And it needs to be a little bit, I'm gonna go here to effect controls. It needs to be a little bit bigger. Get it up a little higher. Go left and right. That looks like a good spot for my burst, but I don't really need it until it's a pretty short effect. So let's see, I want the burst to kind of start appearing right when a little bit more there. And again, I'm going to do an opacity keyframe. Yeah, right here. Burst. And opacity is already keyed. Good. Make a key there. And then I'm going to go a few frames over. Keyframe that down to 0. And go back to this spot. This needs to be lower. But now I'm just going to kind of, as I fly off, keyframe it one more time to lock it in. And now I'm going to just raise it up with my feet. And hopefully I time that right. I'm just going to go back. Yep. Now that burst just kind of stays over my feet. You don't see my feet being cropped off. So I have magical fire coming out from my feet somehow. I can also make 2, 1 for each foot if I was going real crazy. All right. In the interest of time, just going to move on to the sword. And that's going to be the first part of the video. And then I'm going to do a second video where I get all the nitty-gritty details. So, last thing I'm going to do, the challenging part is I'm going to move these all up one layer by selecting them and then hit Alt up arrow. Now I have myself here and I have my sword to keyframe. Right? So this one's going to take a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an easy place to kind of right there. I'm actually going to work backwards. So right there, you can't see my sword because it's cropped and it's motion blurred. My sword being a tripod leg. But we're gonna you could put this katana in there if you wanted to try the katana. But I also gave you the lightsaber is a little bit more forgiving. Excuse me, laser sword. And I'm gonna plop that in there. So this is where it kind of comes out. And then it stays around for a while. It leaves O. Have that in here. And again, I'm gonna need this time, just because I'm gonna have to change the speed to about 200. It's a little big. All right, it's too big. There's a couple of problems with it. So I want to go back to this place where I'm fully extended with the sword right there. And this is where I'm going to line up my sword. So it's too big, and it's got a bad anchor point. So this is where I wanted to talk about anchor point. So I'm going to scale it down. Scale, scale, scale. That's probably a good size for my sword. I'm going to put it in position here. Now the problem is that the anchor point is off. And you might have noticed that with the flame as well. And an anchor point is the point in which all the effects surround the rotation, all the motion effects kind of revolve around this center point. So the default is the center of the picture, but we want the anchor point to be right here. Because right now, if I were to hit rotation, it rotates not around kind of like the base of the sword, it rotates around this kind of place about 1/3 of the quarter of the way through. So it's close, it's just not awesome. I could just double click on this and then slide it around, or I could really customize it and get it to exactly where I want with these sliders here. Get it just right. Now I don't want to keyframe the anchor point. That anchor point needs to stay there the whole time. But I'm gonna get this right to where I feel like it looks like me holding some sort of laser sword. And I'm gonna keyframe this. Position, scale, and rotation. Now there are other effects here that you could use for keyframing the laser sword, but that's about it. Now, this takes some time. This is where I'm going to stop this video, okay? You're going to keyframe this sword probably every 2 to 5 frames. So I'm going to actually keyframe backwards first. I'm going to go back, back, and now my sword's up there, so I'm going to go position a little higher, and then I'm going to need to rotate it. Right? And then back, back, and now position And see, I just want to stop the video short, and then it's over here. Now, don't worry about it being what I'm going to do on the next video is show you how to put this underneath me at some points and above me at other points. And you'll see what I mean on the next video. But what I want you to do right now is just kind of track the hand movement here so that it works. It's about every 5 frames. I can also kind of scale as I'm moving around, back, and now I gotta move this over here. What I can actually do is to kind of create that effect of when I swoop it here, it's kind of changing its angle. So what I could also do is with scale, I can kind of go through again with scale, back, and kind of maybe tone it down a little bit here. And then back, and then tone it back up here. Just kind of there. That looks a little bit more like I'm swooping across. And you're going to do this for about every 3 or 4 frames backwards, and then don't forget to do the forward motion as well. So you got one more swoop here. And again, just forget the fact that it's kind of passing through me right now. It's over me rather than behind me. That's going to be the next video, which is going to be coming up. I wanted to try to break these into smaller chunks instead of like one big lecture, just have several pieces. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have this travel through me. All right. That being said, so just keep going, keep keyframing, and then check the video. So what we've done is we've keyframed myself. We did a couple things here just to recap. Number one, just to recap, place my green footage in, then we cropped it, right? That's under Effects, Transform, Crop. We cropped it and trimmed out the stuff. Then we used the Ultra Keyer, and we made it go from green to everything that was green became transparent. Then we threw in the background image, and then we threw in the assets, and we keyframed them. And I'm leaving you at this point where I want you to keyframe, so I've only keyframed one little chop. I'm gonna go through and keyframe every little motion I do right now. And when I start up again, you'll have this nice long sequence of me moving my sword around. All right, get going.